Hey guys, today we're just going to go over basically using different kinds of setups for boarding actions when you're playing Crusade and kind of theming uh, when you take from your main roster a boarding action party to fit the narrative that you're playing. What I mean by this is I'm going to give you a couple of examples of a couple different layouts from my own Crusade army. Now, first things first, this is my basic force that I would use if I was defending. If I'm on a Space Hulk and the narrative is I'm being boarded, or it's one of the transport ships of our fleet that's being boarded, or it's just generally any one of our warships that's being boarded, this is the kind of force I would start with. Now, I'm going to use a Dark Apostle, mostly because it's inspiring the troops, and a lot of it is going to be lesser units. And you can use either a Dark Apostle or you can even use a Sorcerer. I sometimes just use a regular Chaos Sorcerer without any upgrades to Terminator armor and the like. Both are equally useful, especially if you give like this one already has the Crusade perk. He makes it so I can transhuman stuff. So transhumaning lesser troops makes them better defenders in boarding action and the like. So we got that. And then we have, of course, 3 spawn. Pretty useful in the context of a boarding action. A lot tougher, pretty vicious actually. Then we have the Accursed Cultists. They're going to be broken down into 2 squads. One squad is going to be just the 5 Accursed Cultists. The other 3 are going to be the Torments. Pretty decent. We then have over here another 10 cultists armed with various guns and firearms and of course a flamethrower. And then kind of backing up the Dark Apostle who is encouraging this mess is a 10-man Chaos Space Marine squad. I've got them geared up for hand-to-hand. The squad leader has a demon weapon, plasma pistol. It has a heavy chain axe, and there's also a flamer in there, just to really add to the effect. And this is what I use basically if I'm playing the defender in a boarding action on one of my ships and the like. For the second army, we have a force, boarding action force led by a warp smith. Now I'm going to use this if I'm doing things like cleaning out a Ark of Omen, trying to establish parts of the Dark Mechanicum involved in it. I'm going to also use this if I'm trying to take over a ship and I'm worried about more of the technical aspects of taking over a ship, such as taking over an engine. So boarding action missions where, say, I'm running 3 or 4 different boarding action missions aimed at the same ship. This one would be aimed at more of the technical areas like the engines, cutting the power lines, and things like that. And it consists of a warp smith with Thunderhammer and all the goodies, plasma pistol, mechanendrites. Very, very, very vicious. Very good in hand-to-hand. Also good at ranged, especially short-ranged firefights. We have the 10 cultists, again with the flamer. We have the 10-man Chaos Space Marine squad with the Demon Blade power, or plasma pistol, the heavy chain axe, and a flamer, and they're all geared for close quarters combat, and they'll be divided into 2 squads of 5, or boarding patrols. And then we have one other 10-man squad. Now this one's armed with ranged weapons. We went with the heavy chain gun. This one will be more like if there's a pretty good corridor, he's going to be setting up a base of fire, keeping things from moving up and down that corridor and kind of maintaining control over it. We also have a aspiring champion with a plasma pistol and demon blade and another plasma gun. And again, this 10-man squad will be broken down into 2 5-man boarding squads. Again, one of which is probably going to be setting up a base of fire, guarding any main corridor and the like, while the rest go forward and do the warp smith's bidding. I might also use this force occasionally for defense, but that's only if it's we're playing a narrative game where like my flagship is under attack, or it's a truly crucial area, like the engines for the whole ship or the majority of the engines for an Ark of Omen. And then we have what I call the possession force. The possession force is for attacking and taking a ship. It contains a number of, basically you're going over there and you're trying to taint stuff. So it operates a little bit differently. It's led by a master of possessions who is a real beast in boarding actions. And with some of his abilities, he's going to be able to heal up units such as the Tormented and the Accursed Cultists, as well as also aiding the regular 10-man close combat squad with the Chain Axe, Flamethrower, Demon Blade, and Plasma Pistol. The rest of them with close combat weapons, so that you have 2 5-man groups that he can easily bolster. And in addition to the Accursed Cultists and the Mutated Torments, you also have the Possessed. And these are very vicious in hand-to-hand, especially in boarding actions. And his ability to heal them up and restore them is going to make them more self-sustaining. And again, this is just, if I'm planning on taking a ship just by basically overwhelming it with flesh and bodies and just raw chaos, this is the main strike force I would go for, especially if I wanted to accomplish things in a crusade setting, like accomplishing a ritual aboard the ship. This would be a good force for me to use. And then at the last tier, we have what I call my execution force. This is a force that I am sending over to on a boarding action that is purely for assault. It has one goal only, just slaughter its way through, inflict damage, and specifically hunt down opposing characters like the captain or chief engineer of the other ship, or a high personnel or high value target, HVT, that is located on the ship. Now, to do that, this is not the one force that is not led by an HQ. It's going to be led by a master of executions, truly a beast in close quarters. He's going to be accompanied again by the 10-man Chaos Space Marine Close Combat Squad with the same loadout as the others. And then, since this is an execution force, you have 5 Chaos Terminators. You have 2 with Power Fists, 1 with a Chain Fist, and a Heavy Flamer. And you have 2 with Accursed Weapons and Combi Meltas. And they are just designed to just kind of mow through everything. And finally, rounding out the force, we have a Chaos Spawn. And just to be clear, I could use a regular Spawn model, or I could use one of the hybrid spawns that I have created over the years to show kind of a dark Mechanicus feel. But another option is the spawn that you see before you, which, yes, it is a Warjack from War Machine that looks like a demonically possessed kind of machine-like thing. Originally, I did this up to do as a Dark Mechanicus Castellan robot, but I haven't used it as such for pretty much forever. And in cases like this, I would use it as a stand-in for a spawn with permission from my opponent, of course. He's going to know what it is. I'm going to make it clear it does not have a flamer, but you're playing Crusade, you're playing narrative, in which case the guy you're playing against is probably pretty cool. And so you probably don't have any issues in that regard as far as, worrying about, the size base. Is this right? Is that right? No, you're playing for fun. You're playing Crusade. You're playing with cool guys, generally. So, as long as my opponent's okay with it, and I'll get him cleared with him first, and if he isn't cool, I can always throw in a regular spawn. I just think it adds to the menacing look of an execution force, a force that is essentially being brought in to just execute a target in shipboarding. So That's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe down below. Thank you very much.